Welcome everybody. Today I'm excited to bring you our first educational video. These educational videos are designed to give you a smaller, more digestible piece of information that you can apply directly into your lives. Sometimes with our interviews they may be kind of long, or they may be a bit trickier to find a specific takeaway, and so I want to be able to take topics that we'll discuss with others and package them up so that you can use them more effectively. The first thing that I want to talk about are habits. Habits, I believe, to be a very powerful and a very effective form of change in our lives. That being said, with habits, they work better the longer they're in effect. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up first. I want us to have this kind of common base as we move through future videos so that you can think about how these apply to you and how you can use habits to accomplish goals in your life. So, to get started, many of us are familiar with the word habit. Habit shows up in common sayings like, I'm a creature of habit, or I'm trying to break a bad habit. That's where I say we most often hear it. But a lot of times we don't hear it past that. People don't talk about habits as often as they exist in our lives. I think a big reason for that is a lot of people look at habits in a passive connotation. Kind of the idea that I'll go about my life, I'll do the things that I'm doing, and habits will just kind of create themselves by themselves. And they're not actively managing their habits. A big example of that is, for example, when you get in the car, you'll put your seatbelt on. You don't even think about it, it just kind of happens. It was created by you getting in the car multiple times and by your brain just efficiently using that ability so that you don't have to think about it. But if we don't manage our habits, they can be for good, like putting the seatbelt on in the car, or for bad, like every time you open the pantry, you grab yourself a snack. It's important that we recognize where these are, and it's also important that we set and push ourselves to create habits that we want to have in our lives. Another area that we see habits show up that I think people don't recognize as habits is in New Year's resolutions. A lot of people will set goals like, I want to go to the gym more, or I want to eat less calories, or I want to be on my phone less. That was a big resolution a couple years ago. These are people who are trying to change the day-to-day activities that they're doing, and effectively that is a habit. But with most New Year's resolutions, and as most of us know, they're not always kept. A lot of times we break our resolution, and therefore we don't see the achievements that we'd like to see in our lives. So to get a little bit down into the detail, a habit, by my definition, is something that takes very little brain power and very little preparation to do. Like we've already discussed, that's something like putting on a seatbelt. That can be the routine when you pour yourself a bowl of cereal. That can be how you get dressed. It's your body's way of efficiently using its resources to do tasks that it's already done in the past. Without getting too into the details and the scientifics of it, it saves us time. Another thing with habits, though, that make them a little bit trickier is they don't typically show up on like calendars or to-do lists. Calendars are specific timed events that we know, hey, I need to be here. I need to drop my kids off. I need to be at work. And typically I'd say a calendared event takes the first priority in our lives. Of everything else, that's the most important, and we dedicate our mental capacity to it. The other thing is on like a to-do list, it can be a list of things that you want to get done. Again, usually those are one-time events that you've prioritized to be like, okay, I need to buy dog food today, or I need to paint the fence this weekend. If you were to fill your to-do list with habits, it would be quite large and it would never be checked off because you're just going to do it again the next day. Therefore, most people won't put them on a to-do list. And because it doesn't really show up in either, a lot of times these habits are just forgotten, or we just, as we're moving through those other things, we run out of time. But with that, it's submitting ourselves to the habits that we create while we are going about those other activities. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, two things specifically that make our habits more powerful, or make habits as powerful as they are. The first one is the power they have over time. In the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, he gives a brilliant example on how this kind of works, and I wanted to go over it. He talks about you're given a choice. You can choose a penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or you can take a lump sum of $3 million. The choice is yours. Those who know this example and those who are maybe finance gurus, they know what to choose, and that's the penny. For those who don't, that might sound funny because $3 million, that's a large sum. And a penny doubling sounds pretty good, but can it really reach $3 million? The answer is yes. On day 31, the penny will be worth $10,737,418. So as you can tell, it's 3 times the amount that the 3 million is. But that's not the example exactly. The point that he wants to highlight is the penny doesn't beat the lump sum until the last days. Things like cutting out calories or going to the gym more often, or habits that don't necessarily have an immediate reward, they don't take a large effect until later on in our lives. That's why I think a lot of New Year's resolutions are hard. You went to the gym for a month, but you still have the same kind of body type that you had when you started. Or you've been running every day, but you're not getting faster. It's harder to see those long-term benefits, but with consistency, they happen, they show up. Another example that I wanted to talk about is in an interview done by Joe Rogan with Faris Zahabi. He's a UFC coach. He talked about how most people, when they work out wrong. They will work out until the point that they're sore. But this does a couple of things. One, nobody likes to be sore. And two, to recover, it takes a number of days before you're ready to go again. His mentality is stop it, bring it down, go at a lower intensity. So instead of doing 10 pull-ups, do 5, but do 5 over more days. It becomes more enjoyable, it's easier to do, and his example is if someone does 10 pull-ups and then takes 2 days off, but I do 5 pull-ups and I do them for 3 days, effectively I've done 15 pull-ups and he's only done 10. It adds up over a lifetime, and that can be done in every aspect of our life. And that's to say our habits don't need to be these large changes. For example, going cold turkey on something that you don't want to do. Some people that works, I'm going to say for most it doesn't. And that's why it's important to start small, little things, let them get bigger, but do them more consistently. And that's kind of what leads me into the 3 main points I want to take away from this, is that habits should be small. We're not trying to change huge aspects of our life in a minute's time. They should be consistent and not perfect. You don't need, just because you missed a day doesn't mean that you should give up on it. Just because you missed a week doesn't mean that you should give up on it. Going back to the principle of what Faris talks about, any amount of anything towards your goal is progress. So just because maybe you only have 5 minutes and you don't want to do these push-ups, well, do 5 push-ups. Maybe you can't make your goal of 50 for the day, or whatever it is, do something or do part of it, or take a day off and do it the next day. But as you continually try to get better, those will become easier and more consistent and more powerful. Another one is it takes time. There's a debate out there about how long it takes for a habit to form, and that's sometimes between 21 days or 66 days. I'm not here to say who's right or wrong, but be prepared to not see immediate results. And that's why picking something smaller is a little bit more digestible. It's easier to say, okay, I'll do this again, or I'll do this again. If you say, hey, I'm going to run 5 miles every day for this year, that's really overwhelming, and I'm going to say you're likely not going to do it. But if you say, hey, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes a day, that's achievable. And if you miss a day, or if you miss a month, it's easy to say, hey, I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to walk another 10 minutes today. So start today. Find something that you can start to apply that isn't enormous. Don't wait for New Year's. Don't wait for a huge life event to come to motivate you into changing, but look at yourself, look at your habits, look at what's missing, or maybe something you want to stop. Pick something and take small steps at it. And I know over time you will see change. I know over time it'll get you closer to your other goals. In later videos, we'll talk a little bit more about, once you have a foundation of good habits, what they can do for you. But for today, hone in on the little things in your life that you can do better and do the best that you can. Failure's okay. Just get back at it. I hope you find some value in this. I hope you take this message seriously. And I know that this is how we all can find our happiness and can find true and efficient change in our lives. So with that, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and let's get better together.